And at no point did I ever have enough yarn for this project. I have no idea what I was thinking. Hello, knitting friends. Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Kristen, and it is the last video of the month, and that means it is the monthly podcast episode. So I'll be sharing a couple of finished objects, some works in progress, a few acquisitions, and even a little bit of sewing. Before we get started, what I am wearing today is my outline tee. This is a pattern by Jessie May that I knit in Hobby Friends Cotton Linen. So it is a nice, warm, nearly 80-degree day here today, and I am wearing one of my spring summer knits. If you enjoy knitting while you watch podcasts, please do leave a comment and let me know what you are knitting on while you are watching. I always love to hear that. All right, let's jump right in to finished objects. So, when the month of April started, I set a goal for myself, which was to finish two warm weather knitting projects that I had started kind of late in 2025, and then set aside once it became apparent that by the time I finished them, it was going to be too cold to wear them. And that was my Winnie top and my Stromboli. So Winnie was the first one I got out, and I finished the first skein of yarn that I had. And that got me through the upper back, the upper left front, and most of the upper right front. So I still had the rest of the upper right front and the entire body and all of the lace trim. So that's what this looks like, in case you're not sure. And I only had one other skein of yarn. So I checked back in the pattern, and at no point did I ever have enough yarn for this project. I have no idea what I was thinking. Not even the smallest size did I have enough yarn for, and I was not knitting the smallest size. I have no idea what was going through my head. So I'm knitting my Winnie top in Magpie Fibers Swanky DK, which is a lovely yarn. It is also on the pricey side. I want to say it's around $30-ish a skein. So I was not in a big rush to go grab another one and take this from a $60 t-shirt to a $90 t-shirt. I'm sure I will at some point get another skein. Magpie Fibers is really right up the road, so it's not such a big deal. But I was not in a hurry to correct that mistake in such an expensive fashion. So I went ahead and put Winnie back in hibernation, but I did finish my Stromboli. So I just finished this morning. It has not been blocked. I did steam it a little bit, so just so it would look nicer for the video. But what I am planning to do is, as soon as I'm done recording, to wash block this, and so I can put some B-roll in here of me actually wearing it, which I will record between now and when I start editing this video. So Stromboli is a pattern by Caitlin Hunter. I think this is the first Caitlin Hunter pattern I have ever knit. The yarn I used for this was Illimani Sabri 1. So Sabri 2 is just a heavier version. The Sabri 1 is a light fingering that is 85% cotton, 15% alpaca. So as you can see, it is nice, even before blocking, nice and light and drapey with all of these lace and eyelet stitches. So I did knit the smallest size for this because the smallest size is a 44. You're supposed to have quite a bit of ease. I didn't really want a ton of ease. So assuming this comes out the right size, I should have probably like about 7 inches of ease at the bust, which should be plenty. But I don't know because I haven't blocked it yet. So this ended up using 673 yards for the smallest size. The yarn called for in the pattern is one of the Mayak yarns that are quite pricey. and that is slightly lighter weight than this yarn. So the actual yardage called for was something like 8 something for the smallest size, but since I'm using a heavier yarn, I think that kind of makes up for, kind of explains the difference, but I guess we'll see. Maybe my sweater just has come out too small. So it does look quite small, but this is a very, very stretchy pattern, and I am planning to block it pretty aggressively. This is knit from the bottom up in the round, which is not my super favorite construction, but ultimately, because you can't try on as you go very easily. But it does make for a relatively easy knit in that you are just casting on the total number of stitches and then just working in the round. This is an easy to memorize pattern. I did at first keep the chart on hand for the bigger, whatever this is. It's not a cable, it's a lace, horseshoe lace, something. And ultimately was able to just kind of memorize it and didn't have to worry about it anymore. And then the other part is this what's called a knot stitch, and these were also in my Gwynver sweater, and I'm really tired of them, so I'm not, I'm not doing any more patterns with that. It's not a complicated stitch. It does hurt my hands a little bit because you are taking the third stitch on your left needle and passing it over the first two, so it's a little bit fiddly to make sure all your the stitches that you want on the needle are staying on the needle. And I am full up on that stitch. So the sleeves are just in that knot stitch. I really like the way this pattern is written. This is my kind of pattern. There is not a whole lot of superfluous detail, not a lot of long explanations. The whole pattern is like 3 pages, I think. So this is definitely more my speed, but if you prefer your patterns more detailed and descriptive, this one's maybe not for you. So, did I make any modifications? Not really. She does give you instructions for short and long sleeves, so I did the short sleeve. And then to finish the sleeves, instead of doing a plain 1x1 rib, I actually worked 6 rounds of double knitting, which just gives it a firmer cuff. I didn't want it cinching in any, and with the cotton yarn, that's less of a concern, but I really wanted this to be nice and loose around the upper arm. And then finished with the Italian tubular bind off. I did do the regular ribbing on the collar and then use the Italian bind off on that. It doesn't look like I did the tubular cast on. It looks like I did an alternating cable cast on probably, which looks quite similar, but is much less fiddly. And especially something that's, that's not at anybody's eye level. Nobody's really going to be looking at that. I don't mind skimping a little bit there. Of course, it doesn't look as nice as a tubular, but it's okay. So obviously I haven't worn this yet, but the yarn was lovely to work with. So as I said, mostly cotton, a little bit of alpaca. It was very soft to work with. It definitely felt more animal fiber-y than plant fiber-y. Which is nice when you're knitting. Plant fibers can be tough on your hands, so it was very comfortable to knit with. It is definitely on the light side of a fingering weight. I have so this used about 1.5 skeins. So I have about 200 yards of that yarn left. I'm not sure what I'm going to be able to do with 200 yards of a light fingering weight in a cotton, but maybe we'll come up with something for it. The yarn, I'm not sure exactly how much I paid for it. I bought the yarn when we were in Williamsburg last summer at whatever the name of their cute little local yarn shop is in Williamsburg. Absolutely adorable. But I checked online and it looks like it's about $16 a skein, which puts this at about $32 for the whole project, which I think is an excellent deal. Hopefully in the next episode of the podcast, I might even be wearing this and then I'll be able to give you some feedback on how it is to wear. But it was lovely to knit with, soft, drapey, a lovely experience overall. So I'm really happy to have this done. I don't know how warm the alpaca is. I don't know if it's really going to add any warmth to the cotton. I'm hoping it's really just going to add some drape, mean, it definitely is adding drape and a little bit of fuzz, but I'm hoping this is still going to be really wearable, at least until we get into the summer, hot, humid months. So we shall see. But my Stromboli, which I started last August, so right after we got back from Williamsburg, I guess I wound up that yarn pretty quickly, is now done. As I said, the pattern was definitely my style, but it does get a little monotonous. It's really just the two-stitch pattern. So I am happy to have it done, and I'm excited to see how much it's going to grow with the blocking, and hopefully it's going to be a great piece for the next couple of months. So that is my Stromboli, a finished object. I do have one more finished object. It is a small one though. That is, I have finished my Manhattan hat for JJ. This is a pattern by Tori Yu in the greenest yarn I think I have ever seen. So this yarn is Wool Dreamers Moda. I think I mentioned in my last podcast episode, my son had picked this color out when he supposedly wanted to learn to knit, and his interest in learning to knit waned very quickly. So I figured I would just make something for him with it. So this pattern is very, very simple. You can use a tubular cast on if you want, but because I did the double brim, there's no reason to. You're never going to see my cast on, so I did not bother with that. It is just 1x1 rib for, in this case, this is the adult small size with the double folded brim, 12 inches of 1x1 rib. It's not the most fun, but it's a great portable project, easy to memorize. This used less than one ball of the Moda. And then you really only have to pay attention once you get to this point to do the shaping. And that, again, is very easy. You don't need to be checking the pattern. You just put your markers in place and you continue decreasing at the rate she tells you around the markers. You don't have to count. You just have to count stitches when you place the markers. And then after that, you just keep making the decreases until you have whatever X number of stitches left, and then finish it off with the Kitchener stitch. So this was, I'm not going to say it was a quick project, because I'm sure you know, any prolonged 1x1 ribbing is monotonous and it's not the most fun. But as I said, this was a great portable project. I would work on this in the car, waiting at the bus stop for, that sounds like I drive up to the bus stop at the top of the road, but no. JJ is in a magnet program at a school that's about a 30-minute drive away without traffic. But they have a closer bus stop for him that is about 12 minutes away. So I drive to the closer bus stop. I don't like drive to the top of my street. So I would knit on this while waiting there in the doctor's office. JJ has a therapy group that he goes to once a week. So this was great in the waiting room. And now it is done. Obviously, I'm not giving this to him now. It's April, almost May, but I'm going to put this away for Christmas. I don't remember what color it is because they're color numbers. But you know what? I bet if you look at the Moda at your local yarn shop or even online, you can probably identify this one pretty quickly. So I believe my total yardage for this was about 200 yards. And now I have a first Christmas gift done already for this year. So what I'm hoping to do this year is to do some Christmas gifts throughout the year. We shall see how that goes, but I got one done. So Manhattan hat, definitely, especially if you like to knit maybe a couple of the same things for people. Great, easy pattern, easy to memorize. Doesn't use a ton of yarn. Not the most interesting to knit, but it does have the sort of interesting looking shaping at the top, and good for, it's got like 7 sizes, so good for everybody on your list. All right, let's go ahead and talk about some works in progress. Now, some of the projects that I've been working on for the last few months, I have put into hibernation. So my Ron vest is hibernating until it gets cool enough for that again, but I have some new cast-ons, of course. So I've started 2 summer projects. This one is in my lap because the cat was trying to play with the yarn, so I guess we'll start with this one. This is my lavender tank top. This is a pattern by Lavender, and this is my second start of it. So, Lavender, I'm going to assume, is a French designer. And the pattern only has metric measurements. In general, that's fine. I will just, find my size and then calculate things in inches so that I can understand them. However, the pattern page for this top says that the gauge is 16 stitches over 4 inches, and that is incorrect. So what the pattern says is 16 inches by so many rows equals 6 by 7 centimeters. Now, if the pattern had said 16 stitches by whatever rows equals 2.36 inches, that probably would have caught my eye. And I know that 6 centimeters is not 4 inches. It's 10 centimeters is 4 inches because that's in like every pattern. But because that wasn't there, it didn't really catch my eye that for some unknown reason, she was providing gauge not over 4 inches, but over 6 centimeters or 2.36 inches. Now, the reason for this is presumably that the chevron pattern repeat is 16 stitches. Personally, I believe in that case, you should be, if you want to provide gauge for the pattern repeat, you should still provide gauge over 4 inches. So you should say whatever the gauge is over 4 inches, and then one pattern repeat equals XYZ inches, whatever. But it didn't. So I started this project assuming that the gauge I was aiming for was 16 stitches over 4 inches. And it was something was looking off about it, but it is hard to check your gauge in a chevron pattern like this because your stitches are, but it was looking wrong. And so I went further into the pattern where you have the full number of stitches around the bust. I looked at that stitch count, divided it by 4, because that's, if 16 stitches is 4 inches, then 4 stitches is 1 inch. So I divided it by 4 to find the inches that the full bust was supposed to be. And it was coming out some crazy number. And I was like, well, this doesn't make any sense. The bust is not supposed to be like 58 inches. So I finally went back and looked at the gauge and realized that the gauge was not over 4 inches. So this is your warning that if you want to do this pattern, the gauge is not 16 stitches over 4 inches. So that threw me off a bit. I was considering scrapping or at least postponing the project because I was very annoyed. Also, I had kind of forgotten that you'll have all of these to deal with, but because you have 4 colors, you can't carry 3 colors up the side while working with 1 color. So you're having to cut, although there are a couple of spots where, like this here, for example, goes, where is it? Contrast color 1 to 1 again or something. So then you can carry just the 1 color up. But I decided to go ahead and restart. So take 2 for the lavender tank top. The yarn I am using for this is Happy Place, which is a 50-50 cotton merino, which is another reason that I was thinking about postponing this project because our weather is still insane. I think on Monday, the high was barely out of the 40s, but there was a day last week where it was 92 degrees. But it is very quickly getting into the no more wool period of time, even 50%. But I decided to keep going with it. I don't know if I like this yarn a ton. It kind of has a thick and thin thing going on that I don't love, that is not really immediately apparent from the photos, and the spin's kind of not, it's not very tightly plied, I guess. So I don't know how I feel about it. So like you can see here, this is obviously one ball of yarn, but these, the thickness between these two strands is pretty different. So I'm not, I don't, I'm not sure how I feel about it. It looks very nice knit up. I'm not unhappy with how it looks. The stitch definition is still good. It looks nice and smooth. I don't, this looks more green than it did online. Online, this looked more like a light to medium gray, and I feel like it has a green tinge that I don't necessarily love. But moving it further back, I think it looks okay. I love the whatever aubergine. So I swapped. So the pattern has one main color, 3 contrast colors. I swapped my second and third. So the third is supposed to be the darkest contrast color, but I didn't want as much of the dark stripes, and there are more of the dark stripes than the medium. So I swapped those so that I would get more of the purple stripes, and it is going fine. The pattern so far is easy to memorize, but with 4 balls of yarn, it is not a very portable project. So I have not been working on it as much as, well, also I had to restart it, and I had knit I had knit more than this. I had knit part of the way through the next section of increases. So I haven't been working on it as much as I would perhaps like to be. It's not very convenient to carry around 4 balls of yarn. But it's a start, and we'll see how it goes. The pattern itself so far seems pretty clear. There are some comments on people's projects about having difficulty getting the fronts and the back striping pattern to line up. So obviously I'm not at that point yet, and we'll see. But that's what I got so far on my lavender. And well, I have this sock. Nothing exciting here. I just found this old ball of, I don't think she makes yarn anymore, Swift Yarn Company. I don't know what it's called. I just started a plain sock because it was fun colors. I really don't have anything to say about this. It's just sharing a bag with my other WIP, which is my Margaux top. So this I also restarted because it's a very stretchy, the stitch patterns are very stretchy, and I had started knitting, I don't know, I want to say on a, what is this? This is a 4. I had started knitting it on a 5 and decided it just looked too big, but I had only done just the ribbing at the bottom. So I have switched it to a 4. I was also working, my Stromboli on the 4, so I was kind of swapping back and forth between the projects. So I was using a 3 and a 4 for this, and also a 3 and a 4 for the various parts of the Stromboli. So I was going back and forth between them, but now Stromboli is done, so I can refocus on this. So Margaux is a pattern by Gregoria Fibers. It is relatively simple. It is certainly very easy to memorize. It is just alternating sections of an eyelet stitch, a ribbing, and a garter stitch. Of course, you got garter stitch in the round, which is nobody's favorite, but a lot of times for patterns, if they start with a 2x2 rib, I will switch to a 1x1, but because the 2x2 rib is used throughout and I like the way that looks, I just kept the 2x2 rib. However, there's like a big complicated Italian tubular cast on for a 2x2 rib, which is going to be different than a 1x1 rib that they go through, and I did not bother, because again, just like with the Stromboli, the bottom hem is not at anybody's eye line. Nobody's going to be seeing it, and it was just not going to be worth all the fiddliness. So I did not bother. I did a twisted German cast on, so it would be plenty stretchy. I didn't want my rib to be tight at all at the bottom, and When it comes to the top and the neckline, that is, something that's really going to be seen by people. I'm fine with putting the extra effort into very nice finishing, but it just did not seem worth the effort for sort of a casual summer top and a hem that nobody is going to be looking at. So the yarn I'm using for this is Dilly Dally from Knit Picks in the colorway Shoal. This is a 70% Pima cotton, 20% bamboo, 10% hemp in a DK weight. This has been fine to work with. It is, it's definitely very obviously a plant fiber. It does not feel like wool, but it is still pretty soft. It does have, because you've got all three of those fibers in there, occasionally you get a little something sticking out, and just pull that out. It's probably the hemp. Yeah, it's probably the hemp. Little bits of it sticking out. We just take those off. This is a little heavy. It's, again, it's not wool, but it is still a DK weight cotton. This is something probably I will not be wearing in the hottest part of the summer. It'll still be pretty heavy, but I'm hoping to get some more progress on this. So maybe this can be something I'm wearing next month in May before it gets too warm, or in September when it starts to at least get a little cooler. But yeah, even those plant fibers, you don't want, they can still feel really heavy in the summer. So that's how the patterning looks. This is going to stretch a lot. So especially like lengthwise to really open up the eyelets. So we will see how this turns out, but I love that basically the first part, you're alternating between these three different stitch patterns. So it's holding your interest, but you don't really have to check the pattern. It's just like 10 or 12 inches of this before you split for the front and back. So that is, again, I was negotiating needles with the Stromboli for a bit, but now that that is done, I will be able to refocus on this, and hopefully that is going to be getting most of my attention between that and the lavender for the next couple of weeks. And those are all of my WIPs. All right, I do have a couple of acquisitions. One is really not for now. It is definitely for colder weather. It was on my yarn wish list, so the Easter Bunny brought this for me, and that is I've got 5 skeins of Knit Picks You and Billy, which is a DK weight yarn. It is a 75% merino wool and a 25% kid mohair. So you are getting, it looks like it's a 2-ply. It's not like a super tightly plied. So might not be great for cables, but I have this picked out for my Kumo cardigan. We'll see, because I've already got another half fisherman cardigan on the needles that's not getting nearly enough attention, but that's the idea. And you've got the merino and the mohair all in once. You're still getting that little extra fuzz fluff, but without having to carry 2 strands together. So I have used this before. I'm using it on another project. As I said, with the 2-ply, and it's a little bit of a looser ply. This is maybe not going to be your first choice for cables, but it looks very nice in a stockinette. Let's see if I've got, so you can see, very nice in the stockinette, nice stitch definition, and a nice, see that halo, that little bit of fuzz with the mohair in there, and it is very soft. So I sometimes can find mohair a little prickly, but this one, and so this has some little cables in it, and those look nice still, even though it is not the most bouncy yarn or round yarn. That is what the You and Billy looks like knit up. And now I have enough for the Kumo cardigan, or perhaps, if I change my mind about that, enough for a nice DK weight sweater or cardigan in the fall or winter. And then the other yarn I have is that I went ahead and took advantage of a sale to order myself 2 skeins of the Pearl Soho Santalina. So this is the green agave color. I love this. It looks a little a little greener, less blue than it is looking on the camera. So the Santolina is 70% organically grown cotton, 20% rayon from bamboo, and 10% hemp, which is basically the same as the Dilly Dally, but this is a fingering weight. So I did grab this on sale. Pearl Soho, I don't know what kind of sale it was, but it was like 20 or 25% off. So instead of $20 a skein, it was $15 a skein. So I grabbed 2 of these. That's $30. And then they charged me $10 for shipping, which I'm sure is fair, but paying 1/3 of the price of the thing just to ship the thing, just something that's always going to annoy me. So if you saw my, see this, these kind of the little things I was talking about that come out in the Dilly Dally too. If you saw my reel that I posted a couple of days ago, I'll pop it in here in case you're interested. This is the yarn that I was winding up. So I am ready to get started on a summer project with this. The perpetrator is down here napping and looking like a little angel. And this terrible sketch is what I want to do with this. And I know that is not super detailed, but basically what I am looking to do is a sort of contiguous saddle shoulder, maybe with a cap sleeve, kind of like this. And then this all over lattice stitch that I have used in my Annapolis sweater, which is a design from quite a few years ago. I don't know if I'm gonna make a pattern for it. I've released a couple of patterns this year just for fun, but they do require a lot of work, and they at this point are not earning back usually even the tech editing fee. So I am going to at least make one for myself, and we will see. So that is the plan for this yarn. This is 328 yards, 100 grams. That's really more like a sport than a fingering. And it does say a US size 2 or 3. So that is definitely on the heavy fingering to sport weight side. But I think 2 skeins will be enough for a top with just, either no sleeves or just a teeny little cap sleeve. Should be good. So we will see. I think I'm going to do like a separate project vlog on that project. So you can keep an eye out for that. I don't know how long it's going to take me to do that. I want to be like how I went from this to this in 2 weeks, but that chances of that happening are pretty slim. So hopefully later this summer you will get a peek at that, and I'll let you guys know how my plans turned out. But I'm really looking forward to trying out this yarn. Knit Cheek has an adorable podcast, and she has been a big fan of this yarn. So you should definitely watch her if you are not already. And she had so many lovely things to say about it. I really wanted to try it. So this was actually my first Pearl Soho order. I've never ordered for them before. And they also sent me a sample of their good wool. So just a little mini skein. And that might be nice for something fall wintry. So I definitely am going to swatch that up at some point. But this is definitely going to be my priority. Definitely looking forward to a summary project. And that is all of my acquisitions for this month. I haven't done any sewing for you guys in a while, so if you're not interested in sewing, go ahead and skip ahead. But if you are, I just have a little project and some fabric to show off. So I recently finished this adorable top in some leftover fabric. So I used this fabric, I think I want to say 2 summers ago, to make the Darla dress from True Bias, maybe? Not sure. And I had enough left to make this. So this is the Aster top. It is actually a pattern for a top and a dress. This one I'm pretty sure is from True Bias. I have made the top twice, and I have made the dress. Now the dress, sadly, has an oil stain on it, some olive oil. And I have tried a billion things to get it out, and I cannot get it out. And it's like right along the front leg. If you have any tips for getting oil out of clothes, please let me know because I would love to be able to. That is a huge wasp. Put that back in my rotation. Um, if not, I'm definitely going to make another one. So I really like this pattern. And as I said, I have made this top before. This is my second time making the top version. And both times, what I have done is first I have lengthened it. So the first time I added about 2 inches, this time I added 3. And then the other thing I have done is to have it come out at the hips. So instead of being straight, we flare out a little bit from the waist. I love this fabric. It's so beautiful. And both the dress and the top have these buttons at the back. And look at my little Maryland buttons. I've been looking for a project for them. I believe the shirt top pattern calls for 3 buttons, but I went ahead and added 4, mostly because these buttons are a little smaller than what's called for in the pattern, and because I had 4 buttons and I didn't want to just have one leftover button for nothing. So I really should have shortened the straps, and I forgot. So they're a little looser than I would like. What I like about this pattern is the finishing on it is really nice. So there's a nice facing. I can't remember where I got this fabric, but I love it. Like, what I really love is that the wrong side of the fabric looks like a different fabric. Like, I just love it. Anyway, so this has a nice facing on the top, and then the way that the hem is done, everything, you just like sew it and then fold it over, and the corners pop inside. So it kind of self folds. You don't have to iron so much. And it's very neatly finished on the inside. So this is a really cute, comfortable, easy to sew top for the summer. I will definitely be making the dress again. I may even make more of these tops, but I still don't think I had the length quite right. I still think if I'm wearing high-waisted stuff, this is fine. And not that I'm wearing like a lot of low-waisted stuff, but sort of just like the regular waisted clothes, pants. It's a little short for that. So we'll see. I haven't worn it yet. I haven't washed it after finishing sewing it. So I definitely want to do that before, because it has some, like markings and things on it that I want to take off before I wear it. But I'm really happy with it. It's so cute how it turned out. And I'm so happy to have had a chance to use my crabby buttons. So that was my sort of April project. I've been trying to do one project a month, but I never got around to one in March. So in January, I sewed a top. February, I sewed a skirt. March, I just kind of forgot. But now I have a top. And I got a couple of fabrics for some summer dresses. So this one, I got these both from Matchy Matchy Sewing Club. I will say the fabric is nice. The prices are good, but it took a while to get the fabric. So it took like at least a week for them to ship it. And then the shipping was not super fast either. So it took me a good like 2.5 weeks from the time I ordered to get the fabric. I wasn't in any rush, but if you are, ordering things in a rush, or you are used to getting things faster, something to keep in mind. All right, so this one was probably not a wise choice. It is white. I have 2 boys and a dog, but I don't know, I want a floaty white summer dress. So this is their linen, I think, 100% linen. It is, it's certainly not opaque, but it is not as see-through as I feared it might be. So if I pick a project that is lined, it should be fine. So this is just really beautiful, nice, drapey. Fabric has like a little bit of texture in it. Like I said, I really want like a floaty white summer dress, even though it is frankly a stupid idea. So I got that. And then I got this because I love a gingham. And this is a tiny gingham. I don't remember. I think this is a cotton linen. I already took all the like labels off. So you can see this is in fact a tiny gingham. Love this. Love a gingham. So cute. I love tiny prints in general. So I was happy to find a tiny gingham. So I got 2 dress patterns printed recently for me by Tape Free Patterns. So tops, I will usually print at home and tape them together. But dresses, I will usually not. I will have them printed even though it's an extra expense because it's just such a pain. So I got 2 dress patterns printed. Let's see, this one is the Hill Collarless Dress. That's a pattern from Seamwork. I'm not like hugely invested in this one. It seems like a kind of easy, casual dress. And I have some other dress patterns already printed. But this one I'm excited about. This is the Wren dress by, I want to say, Friday Pattern Company. This is what I want to use the white fabric for, even though it's a terrible idea. It's a really cute, I'll put a photo in here. So that is hopefully what the white fabric is going to become. And then I don't know if I'm going to use the gingham fabric for that dress or another dress. I like to sew dresses. I don't actually wear that many dresses though. So I also would like to do some floaty pants. So I have a pair of saguaro pants that I wear all the time in the summer. I love them. But the fabric I used for them, and it's very comfortable, is more see-through than that white fabric. So I can really only use them as like a beach cover-up or if I'm at home, not leaving the house. So maybe more of those. I really like my, sort of comfortable pants, still to have pockets. And ideally, so the saguaro definitely has an elasticized waistband. Ideally, I like a flat front with an elasticized back. So I don't know. I need to maybe look for some more floaty, comfortable pants. I do have the Petra pants, which I've sewn several times. Well, I've sewn the pants and I've sewn the shorts. But I've done both of those in like a heavier fabric. So maybe a light fabric with those pants might work. They do have pockets and they do have a flat front with an elasticized back. So we'll see. Hopefully this time of year, I'm getting less invested in the knitting and more in the sewing. So maybe we'll have some more sewing coming up over the warm months. All right, friends, I have one last thing I wanted to talk to you about, and that is Maryland Sheep and Wool. By the time you are watching this, Maryland Sheep and Wool is next weekend. So I will definitely, weather permitting, be participating in some of the festivities. On Friday, I have tickets to Yarn Centric, which is the Indie Dyer pop-up that takes place in Frederick, which is 20 to 30 minutes away from the fairgrounds. I have tickets to the first afternoon session. So I want to say that's like from 1 to 3. I may show up closer to like 12:30 and grab something from one of the food trucks and then go in. So we shall see. Tentatively, my plan is to be at the fairgrounds on Saturday and then on Sunday to perhaps go to Magpie Fibers. They've got all kinds of stuff going on throughout the weekend, special visitors, special classes, other yarn and knitting accessory purveyors are going to be there. I would hopefully maybe do that on Sunday. If the forecast calls for rain on Saturday, but not Sunday, then I will reverse it and I would go to the fairgrounds on the day it is least likely to rain because it is frankly miserable to wander around the fairgrounds in the rain. Things get very muddy very quickly. I will have 2 children with me. One of them is 13 and relatively flexible. The other one, not so much. So I don't. My plan maybe is to have us take separate cars so that when the younger one starts complaining about everything, my husband can just take him home. But we shall see. So whichever day it is least likely to rain, I plan to be at the fairgrounds, and then the other days, yarn centric and hopefully magpie fibers. So if you are coming to town and you see me at any of those events, I hope that you will say hi. It would be lovely to meet you. Yay, Maryland Sheep and Wool. All right, friends, that is everything I have to share with you today. Links to patterns, yarn, and other things will be in the description box down below. And again, if you are planning to be at Maryland Sheep and Wool or any of the other festivities and you see me, I hope that you will say hi. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. If you enjoyed it or took anything from it, I hope you will give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to leave a comment. Let me know what you've been knitting while you were watching. And don't forget to subscribe. New knitting videos here every Saturday. If you're looking for me on social media, you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as MediaPeruana, and I will see you soon in another video.